Hello and welcome once again to another season of Formula Racing League, our 20th I believe, and we're back after 6 weeks of hiatus with perhaps the newest, most innovative championship the Formula Racing League has put together in some time. We're back for the Late Night World Tour once again. We had a 6-month World Tour starting back in March, and we're doing a mini one here for 7 weeks. We're starting here today at the Red Bull Ring, which should guarantee close action, plenty of surprises, plenty of on-track battles. I'm Jan Prentice today to take you through it, and we have got a treat lined up for you. So you'll see on the left-hand side as we go straight into qualifying, you'll see on the left-hand side that there are drivers representing countries on there. So it's typically a maximum of 2 drivers per country, with the lead driver in the race scoring points for that country. We will take you through the drivers very shortly, but effectively you're racing not only for yourself with an individual championship to be totted up at the end of the season, but you're also racing for the pride of a nation. So we're out here with a proud Canadian, Mark-Lyn Brush-Tully, a late joiner to last season's World Tour, out first of all in qualifying in the Porsche car number 2, and a man who improved as the season went on. I think it's fair to say he'll be looking to deliver a lot more success for the Maple Leafs this time around. We're taking you effectively to Christmas and Advent calendars, because this is going to be 7 weeks, which from the end of October, which we're now fast approaching, it's going to take us all the way to the middle of December. So sit back, relax, and hopefully your Christmases come early whilst watching for this. Brush-Tully goes around what used to be, I think, the Ost curve here before heading to the Texaco chicane. It's the tricky track. It's the easy, tricky track. If you're Danica Patrick, it's a very easy track to go around. If you're Nico Rosberg, the Formula One World Championship, it's the most difficult track to nail, which will be the case here today as Brush-Tully now goes around the ring curve. Very difficult corner, it must be said, to keep cars all inside the white line. We'll go a little bit more through the format once the drivers have all finished their qualifying laps and we wait for the racing to get underway. Now, here's Mark-Lyn Brush-Tully. All eyes on the Canadian as the first driver to cross the line, with, I think, Luke Prentice of New Zealand this time around, the Brit, becoming an honorary Kiwi up until the middle of December, following just behind car 333. We'll keep tracking his progress and the progress of all 19 drivers as the race continues, and as the qualifying session continues here. So first sector done for Brush-Tully now. Late on the brakes. He could be a bit later on the brakes because it's an uphill corner going in, or uphill braking, so going into the hairpin there, but what is officially turn 3. But it is difficult to get the power down because you're going straight uphill again, and whilst that usually means better traction, because it dips so violently on the exit, it means that actually you can't snaking. Speaking of snaking and difficulties, Brush-Tully off into the weeds at turn number 4, and that will be an invalidated lap time there. So we're going to go to car 333, which is Luke Prentice, the honorary New Zealander there, black and white livery there. So his car, through its sheer simplicity, will stand out today. So through the left hand there of what is turn number 6, Valtteri Bottas's lawn mowing services, pitching up tents there a few years ago, weren't they? So let's see what he can do through the Texaco chicane. Now down over the crest into the downhill right-hander at the rim curve. Now, got to make sure that you attack the apex, but don't overcommit, because if you run wide here, that's track limits. It's as almost as brutal as Formula One. Skips the curve there, misses the sausage curve, back end comes out. Here we're going to see a benchmark time in the Aston Martin, and that is a 1 minute 32.3. I think there will be plenty on offer in terms of track improvement, because it's a greasy track. And there, as we see straight away, Irish representing Team Germany, the hot favourite here. All of his drop scores last season wiped off, and so it was wins all around for the German. Can anybody topple him? Well, Adam Sharp went fastest in practice, but I suspect that Eresh had more to give. Josh Clayton for Mozambique in the Aston Martin is in second position ahead of Fernando Ferreira in the Lamborghini this time around, formerly of Mercedes, with Ritu Serra of Team Monaco, and Dan Townsend just behind. Trevor Mendes is another man who's been on the improvement. We talked about Mark-Lyn Brush-Tully. Trevor Mendes is another man who's improved markedly from before, where he was 2 or 3 seconds off the pace. Now, definitely not the case. As more and more times start to tumble, rain in 15 minutes will not affect the session, but it's out there until you drop, because the track being greasy, it's only ever going to get quicker now. So here is, I suspect, crossing the line now. Where is car number 19? That is Serafino Gabino. See if we can catch up with him. Formerly the Vatican City, moving over to Italy now. And Serafino Gabino is not starting a lap or finishing a lap. He's starting one. So we're going to go back to car number 2. Marcelin Brusciulli, hopefully with a better effort than before. The Canadian in the Porsche crosses the line, and it is third position there. 0.2 of a second off of Eresh. Luke Prentice now goes to the top on 1 minute 30.4. We're going to see Eresh again. Car 404 now across the line in the Ford Mustang, and it's top again by 1/10 of a second. Car 17, that is Darren Mark Davis. He's across the line, but to no avail. 2 cars have caught each other, so I wonder if Fernando Ferreira, who's he starting on the back of? I think that might be, is that Paul Fiddler or is that Adam Sharp in the Honda? No, it's Rita Serra in the Honda representing Monaco. And unfortunately, it's got a rather impatient Portuguese driver behind him now. So as Chris Gebman gets himself up into 12th for Team Uganda, and car 76 is Trevor Mendes dropping to 13th, but not for much longer because he's been usurped. He's in 14th position now with Gordon Brown crossing the line in the Lamborghini just ahead to drop him down to 6th place. So who's yet to cross the line? Who's yet to set a real lap time? Well, is Fast, David Fast, across the line for Team Belgium. That is P8 for the McLaren driver. 4 minutes to go, and a lot of chip chopping and changing to go. So car 13 across the line. We had Adam Sharp in here earlier, but he has yet to set a lap time. I wonder why that is, because he's not normally a man for track limits, and normally very quick in qualifying. As Gabino goes up into 8th position. We're going to go back to car number 2. That's Brusciulli crossing the line once again. Been caught by Luke Prentice on this lap around, and it's another one where he has missed it and stops that lap time. Luke Prentice goes to the top of the table, usurping Gareth Harvey, and Andrew Tullock had got himself up into first place at one point, but he's dropped to 4th with Clayton now back up into the lead. It's going to keep tumbling these times, so expect to see him in the 28 by the time it all shakes out. Ferreira crosses the line behind Sarah. I do question the logic, really, of him being right behind Richard Serra throughout the duration of this qualifying. It'd surely be a lot more sensible to drop back. You're only a 10th behind, you're not going to improve. Certainly not in the corners. But he is up into 8th position, so that's not to be sniffed at, I suppose, even though Sarah is 10th quicker in 5th. But we shall see as Adam Sharp does come to the party now. Team England, who was a worthy runner-up last season in behind the robotic mess, really, that was Eresh. I mean that in the best way possible, because he was metronomic in his consistency now as car 13 crosses the line. That is Jack Barnett representing New Zealand, as well as Luke Prentice up to 15th at the moment. So a good effort from Barnett, who's new to the championship. We welcome all new drivers as Cabino crosses the line 14th to 12th, and 1.4 seconds off the pace with car number 2, Marcelin Brusciulli, 14th. He was top a matter of moments ago, wasn't he? But he's 14th, and he is not 14th for much longer. That is 6th position there for the Canadian. Luke Prentice has dropped back, so I don't think this is going to be a representative lap time because it was a lot closer there. Car number 5, though, is across the line, and he's 2nd. That is Josh Clayton, a man who could reasonably be considered amongst one of the favourites for the championship, both for Mozambique and for the teams. It's Harvey, no it isn't, it is Eresh across the line now, 8th at the moment, 9th at the moment, because Ferreira and Sarah, Ferreira still following Sarah all the way round the lap. I do wonder if that's sensible, but he's backed himself into a corner now, and no further track position can be really changed there. Chris Getman gets himself up into 11th for Team Uganda, with car 76 Mendes in 12th position. Everything happening all at the same time. That's car 179, that's Christian Keller across the line with car 202 up into 2nd place. That's Rafael Arruda representing Portugal, and a strong start to the season there for Rafael Arruda, with car number 13 next across the line. But we'll try and get somebody across the line. That is Jack Barnett, who was 18th and now 8th there, alongside usurping his New Zealand teammate in Luke Prentice. Car number 19 now Next across the line, it's Gabino, 17th. Needs this to be a good lap, doesn't he? It is a good lap, but it is only 14th, 3/10 off. You normally think that's significant improvement around Austria, but not today. Josh Clayton is the next driver across the line for a representative lap time. So we're going to see Josh Clayton now, 4th currently, 6/10 off. Got one more go at it, hasn't he, across the line. And 2nd place for Clayton as Adam Sharp rises to the top and goes pole position. Luke Prentice still in 9th position. And we are going to go now to, I think, Eresh, who is in car 404. 12th place for the German. Not good for him at the moment. 3rd place, though, rectifies that to some degree. The German into 3rd position with car 134. That's Gordon Brown now crossing the line. And where is Gordon Brown? He's lost, completely lost, but he's 13th on the track. Don't worry, as Chris Gebman now gets himself up into 11th and drops his stablemate down. Adam Sharp crosses the line, and it finishes on a 1:28.5. So I reckon that will take some beating. Car 179, Christian Keller is across the line, and he remains in 13th with car 65. That is Andrew Tulloch, across the line. He's up into 3rd for Scotland. So great start. Track he goes really rather well at. The Tartan Army will be impressed with that one. Car number 19 is Serafino Gabino. Now he's come around the final corner. Where's this going to be for the Italians? It's 16th currently, just 1.8 seconds off, and he goes up into 10th place. Excellent lap time from Gabino, and he usurps the New Zealand duo of Jack Barnett and Luke Prentice, both of whom are in the pits. So a little bit of a surprise there to see Luke Prentice down there, because he had been threatening a lot better. But Josh Clayton, the man to threaten pole position now for Mozambique. It's him or it's nothing. Clayton crosses the line, and it's not going to be an improvement. He's eased off. So we see now Eresh needs to find half a second. Eresh, unfamiliar position of 5th place. Eresh in the Mustang, crosses the line, drives to the line. Where's it going to be? It's going to be 2nd place. He found almost everything he needed. Car 911 is now across the line. That is Fernando Ferreira. Ferreira gets himself up into 3rd. So that, a rather breathless qualifying session, it must be said, is all over. And it's Adam Sharp taking pole for England. Team England ahead of Team Germany's Eresh, with Facundo Ferreira in 3rd for Portugal. Josh Clayton ends up 4th for Mozambique with Andrew Tulloch 3rd moments ago, up into 5th place for Team Scotland. Mozambique's completed lineup is Trevor Mendes. He starts in 6th, ahead of Rafael Arruda for Portugal in 7th, with Gordon Brown representing Italy in 8th, ahead of Gareth Harvey and Ritu Serra for Wales and Monaco respectively. It's 11th for Serafino Gabino of Italy, with Jack Barnett out-qualifying his more experienced teammate Luke Prentice in 12th and 13th. They are ahead of Chris Gebman for Uganda, with Christian Keller for Team Hungary in 15th. Marco Librasuli 16th for Canada. Bit of a surprise there. He had been showing better than that previously, with Darren Townsend, the 2nd German representative, in 17th, ahead of David Farce in 18th, with Darren Mark Davies for Team Wales bringing up the rear in 19th. We'll take a quick break and we'll wait for the action to return to the start line, where we'll go through the strategy and the rules in just a short while.
We have some wet conditions. Remember that curbs are slippery and watch your braking distance.
Well, we have rain in the offing here, but not for much longer, which will allow me to neatly lead into the pit stop regulations. You have to stop for fuel, and tyres are optional, though I would suspect with it drying out in a quarter of an hour that tyres will be taken by all drivers, at least certainly those who start on wet, as I would expect most of them will, with the track showing as wet. Now, you will have to pit for a fixed refuelling stop 25 seconds in a pit window that lasts all bar the bookending minutes of the race. So minute number 1 and the final minute will be the only minutes in which you cannot register a pit stop. But you can change tyres, or no, you have the option of not changing tyres, and you have the option of taking tyres. I would suspect with the rain as is that you will be, or all drivers will be changing tyres at least within the sort of 20 minutes. It's going to be crucial to get your timing right, with it being wet, going to dry, with 15 minutes showing only as the sort of weather time frame. The drivers won't be able to see anything, certainly not until they've completed their formation lap. With that being said, you don't want to leave it too late, because if you chew up your wets too much, then the grip goes away too quickly. Better to be a lap early than a lap late in these conditions. So 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. We're focusing on the lead driver, which is Adam Sharp in the Honda, with Eresh in the Ford Mustang. This was a bit of a theme throughout part of last season, with Adam Sharp often leading Eresh for at least parts before the Germans' robotic-like consistency eventually paid off, either in the pit stops or his ability to follow less than a couple of tenths behind. So will that play true, or will Sharp's pace, really, which he's shown all qualifying, every single time the track changed, he was always the man on pole. Naturally, he was one of the first to set his final lap, one of the first to see the final, or the checkered flag. So perhaps that might lead to a bit of form for the Honda, and Adam Sharp with Richard Serra backing that up in 10th place for Team Monaco. So 25 seconds to go. It's going to be a short run to the line, a short formation lap. So we should actually see racing very, very soon indeed. A quick reminder of the grid for you. Adam Sharp leads for Team England ahead of Eresh for Team Germany. Fernando Ferreira and Josh Clayton on row 2, with Andrew Tulloch and Trevor Mendes in 5th and in 6th place. It's Rafael Aruda in 7th ahead of Gordon Brown, as we see actually what's happened here. We've gone to replay here, and I suspect that we need to go back out. So let's get out of that and let's wait, because I think we are just about to go racing here today now. So we will be returning to the garage soon, but for the moment we're viewing Darren Mark Davies. Bit of a disaster here for the moment, but we will commentate as quickly as we possibly can. It's car number 2, which is Michael Brush-Tully in the pits now. So the yellow machine will be Darren Mark Davies, and we will immediately switch back to the pits as quickly as we possibly can. So, bit of radio silence for the moment as the two drivers lead from the start. We can see it is Sharp and Eresh leading to the line. And we will be go very, very shortly. We are green and we are off and racing. And it's Adam Sharp leading away, and he's got a better start than Eresh. He's able to get ahead, but Eresh launches it up the inside. Oh, it's contact, and I think that's Fernando Ferreira has spun Adam Sharp. Adam Sharp's bad luck from last season returns once again for Team England, with Ferreira careering into the back of him. A stop-go penalty for Michael Brush-Tully for speeding in the pit lane, I think, or wreck avoidance there. So that is effectively his race over, as it is for Adam Sharp. So we're going to go to the lead now, which is Eresh. Eresh leads it away from Josh Clayton, who's a second back already, with Andrew Tulloch in 3rd, ahead of Mendes. Great start for Team Mozambique, with the Welsh driver Gareth Harvey in combat, I think, with Rafael Aruda and Gordon Brown. But we're going to see a little bit more as Harvey now defends. Does he? No, he doesn't. That is Aruda on the defensive from Ritu Serra, with Gordon Brown dropping a little bit further back there for Team Italy. It's Serafino Gabino in 9th place in the Porsche, who was gained a couple of positions with Luke Prentice up into 10th. Binnity riding here between him and Barnett in New Zealand colours, with Christian Kelleher dropping to 11th. Darrell Townsend's another man to move further up, with David Fast, I think, up into 13th. There's been a poor lap for Jack Barnett there, being bullied a little bit there. But we go to the front now with Eresh and Clayton. Clayton, who has gained a couple of tenths already on Eresh, and for Team Mozambique is looking very, very racy here today, as he often does in race conditions, with Tulloch dropping a little bit further back as tyres start to come up to temperature. I think Adam Sharp has joined the back of the grid. In fact, he is already behind Darren Mark Davies with Brush-Tully, and Ferreira trailing in at the back. Ferreira is a little bit further back, obviously having waited to his credit for that incident with Adam Sharp, and Brustulli is already serving a stop-go penalty, which is effectively a lost lap around Austria. So we go to the lead now, and it's half a second between Eresh and Clayton. Clayton half a second behind in the Aston Martin, the green, red and a little bit of black and red trim. Aston Martins represent the colours of Mozambique. All drivers are encouraged and asked to represent their colours, and the vast majority have done here with Andrew Tulloch for Team Scotland. Give a little bit more of a retro look, but it is it's bluish and white, even if it is a more chrome purple look for the man known as Blue Mosquito. So 1.8 seconds back. Let's see if there's further action. I think Prentice has deposed of Ritu Serra, and I think there's been further issues back there as well, because he's up into 8th place. But an excellent start for the New Zealand driver, who you said was out of position. Luke Prentice now 4/10 of a second behind Gordon Brown already, and up into 7th place. Rafael Aruda in strife there and dropping back behind Ritu Serra. We didn't see exactly what happened, but it's Townsend and Keller all stuck behind Aruda, the Taco Tuesday champion from last season. An impressive season it was, first season at that level, and he's done really rather well as to gain that championship in the face of stiff competition. But he's got some stiff competition here today, because Darren Townsend launching a move down the inside going into turn 1. This is for P9. Aruda hangs it around the outside. Does he? No. Townsend looks like he's got it stopped, and an excellent move there for Townsend, who leaves the door open for Christian Keller. Keller in the other McLaren now going up the inside of Aruda, but is he going to be quick enough down the straight? I think Aruda might just have the legs on him down the straight, but it's going to be how late does Keller brake? Up the inside we go, and he tucks in rather wisely there ahead of fast as Aruda misses the braking point, nearly hits Darren Townsend, but not enough to cause any consternation there for the Welsh driver representing Team Germany. Adam Sharp back up into 14th now on the recovery drive. The Yorkshireman not going to be pleased with how his pole position was converted for him by Fernando Ferreira, but more on that from the stewards, I would think, a little bit later on. Because Clayton, meanwhile, is still only, he's at 8/10 of a second behind Eresh. Eresh just starting to stretch that gap, and as the Mustang looks a little bit more comfortable, but they're both stretching away from Tulloch and Harvey. Now that might be tyre pressures, especially with the track changing to damp from wet since we last took a look and since the start of the race. But Harvey dropping 2.5 seconds behind Tulloch, with Mendes still in 5th position, a second behind and comfortable from Gordon Brown. Brown having to do with the intentions of an adversary in Luke Prentice. These two go way back on the track. As there's who's that? That's Mendes. Mendes has got off, which has drawn the involuntary little noise there from the commentary team. Mendes has got off track. Now he's got Gordon Brown to think about, because Mendes there going a little bit wide. Brown might actually use this to his advantage because he's got a toe, and they're going to need one, because Luke Prentice there looks like he was setting him up out of turn 1. Prentice goes to the inside, which we'll see in just a second. Right behind him we go now. He's taking a look down the inside. Is he going to try and nail him on the brakes? The Lamborghini strong on the brakes, the Aston Martin strong on the brakes, and the Aston Martin wins out, and it's a block pass there for Luke Prentice. But the Aston Martin does struggle on traction zones, and so Brown is going to have a run down the outside in the Lamborghini representing Team Italy, but he's going to have to go the long way around in the downhill braking zone. So Prentice there, does he get it stopped on the brakes? He does. Brown braking very late indeed. They go side by side through turn 4, and they're still side by side coming out of it, as Prentice now has the high ground you would suspect. Is he going to be able to get the block done? He does. Brown leads out eventually to Luke Prentice, who continues his excellent start to the race. We are going to move forward now to Clayton, and he remains only 7/10 of a second behind Eresh. And these two starting to build away. Well, not really. The gap stays at 2.6 seconds between Clayton and Tulloch, with Harvey still 2.8 seconds behind, and Mendes, obviously another cork in the bottle, having had his adventures at the final corner. Looks a little bit more circumspect, doesn't he, round the final corner, and now it's going to encourage Luke Prentice, who is going to line him up. Is he going into turn 1? I don't think he'll be close enough, but he might just line up a run. Ritu Serra, meanwhile, is already cooling his tyres down. I don't think he was looking at a pass there, but the Spaniard representing Monaco is already cooling tyres down. It's hotting up, meanwhile, between Prentice and Mendes. Mendes had a bit of a mistake, went too deep into turn 1. Prentice Going to make it a bit easier, I suspect, for him going into turn 3. Gets the braking done, moves across very slightly, leaves a bit of racing room, and the Aston Martin already up into 5th position. It's been a great start for Luke Prentice, recovering from starting 13th a little bit earlier on. Meanwhile, talking of 13th, it's the pole sitter, and that is Adam Sharp going side by side there with Chris Gedman, I think. No, that's Fars. Fars in the McLaren of Team Belgium, and that is 12th position there as they catch an ailing. Rafael Aruda is dropping back, isn't he? 11th place, and is struggling, the Portuguese driver, to make progress, which you wouldn't expect. I wonder if he's put on the wrong tyres. He might have gambled on slicks as the rain returns in 15 minutes' time. I didn't think we were going to get off that easy as Sharp moves himself up into 11th place. Bit of a recovery drive from the Honda driver, and I still think good points are in the offing for the fast Yorkshireman. I'm going to go back to the leaders. I think Jack Bennett in further strikes in 16th position. Baptism of fire for the youngster who is new to the championship, to welcome new drivers, showing himself well in terms of cleanliness, which is the most important thing. But he's got Fernando Ferreira already a checkered past in this race, and having a look down the inside of Barnett into the final corner, he'll have to be very careful here given his early misdemeanors. But side by side, I think he's going to complete the move. Barnett drops to 17th, and that, I think, is candy from a baby. So going to go to the front once again. That is Josh Clayton, 6 tenths of a second behind these two. I think it's going to be a bit of a feature, and I so hope that the conditions don't change it a little bit later on, because I think this could be incredible fun with 6 tenths of a second separating them. That's kind of been the gap since the start of the race, certainly since Fernando Ferreira went bowling at turn 1. These two have kind of been the standout drivers. Tulloch still 3 seconds back in 3rd position for Team Scotland, which is an impressive start if he can continue this, having started in 5th position, with Gareth Harvey 3.5 seconds back, and 4 seconds clear now of the charging Luke Prentice. We'll see now what the Aston Martin's pace is like. Now he's in clear air, but I suspect it's pretty good. He's 6 seconds back, so I suspect that he has had a bit of strife. As soon as I've said that, as Trevor Mendes gains about a second on the Brits, cosplaying as a New Zealand driver in 6th position. Still an impressive start for Mendes, bearing in mind not 6 months ago he was 4 seconds off the pace. Now he's less than 1 off the pace, so impressive there as he continues to move up the FRL ranks. It's Ritu Serra, though, behind him for Team Monaco, having deposed of Gordon Brown in the Honda. And Serra again moves over to the right-hand side. I wonder if he's gone slightly more aggressive with his tyre pressures, but he is cooling his tyres down quite urgently, isn't he, really? It's quite excessive in the way in which he's doing that, but 3 tenths of a second behind. It's obviously working for the honorary Monegas, with Brown 9 tenths of a second behind. Not going to be any moves here, I don't think, but I think that is going to stay as is for the time being. We've got David Fuss, I think, coming up onto Rafael Aruda. Aruda reversing headlong down the field. I think the gamble hasn't quite worked, has it, for Aruda? So he can pit for the next 33 minutes as Vars and Gedman go side by side. Yellow, black and red meets red, yellow and black. As Uganda face up against Belgium. The Belgians win out on this occasion, and Gedman has got some defending to do. As he nothing there from, I think it's Bush Tully behind, actually, isn't it? Is that in the Porsche? No, it's Gabino in the white, green and red Team Italy Porsche there, as Fernando Ferreira moves up to the back of Gabino. Ferreira able to keep his nose clean after earlier shenanigans, with Barnett a little bit further back in 17th. So to the front we go, because Clayton less than half a second behind as Andrew Tulloch pits for Team Scotland. So over 10 minutes in, we've got our first pit stop of the race. I wonder if he's going to gamble on it being dry and staying dry, or is he going to try and preempt any rain? I don't think that's going to be the case, as Clayton now having his first real look at Air Issue, brakes on the curb there, unsettles the Mustang a bit, but I think he's going to get away. Neither of these cars the best on traction, and I think that's going to be prove dividends for Clayton. Although Clayton, having a look at the Mustang has been nerfed just a little bit in the off-season by the LMF bot people. Down the inside we go for Clayton, and he falls in behind, but that is as close as we've had for a change of lead since the start of the race, as Darren Mark Davies also comes into the pits for Team Wales. He was towards the back in any case, so he'll be completing that pit stop and hoping for dramas up ahead, one suspects. 7.5 seconds separate second and third, Clayton and Harvey, two allies, of course, in the Team Aston Martin stable, with Luke Prentice now starting to drop back a little bit, so maybe those tyres might just be going off. The wets, which are on his car, might just be beginning to overheat just a little bit as the track goes greasy, but that might pay dividends a little bit later on, because some drivers, with about 10 minutes to go before it starts raining, might just hang on a little bit, see if they can come back in and hopefully bring those tyres back to life. It's Mendes 1.5 seconds behind as Sarah once again starts cooling those tyres down in the car 488 representing Team Monaco. Been an impressive start with Sarah, because it's much improved from previous performances in FRL. That is Gordon Brown. Is it going wide? It is Gordon Brown going wide, and into the fence he goes. And that for Team Italy is a problem, because he was their leading light, and he's going to have some damage to contend with, as well as issues with his tyres. It's Christian Keller behind as Adam Sharp comes into the pits for some clear air, obviously having had the earlier woes. I think he's going to be relieved to get out into some clear air, because, well, we're going to see exactly where he'll be in terms of or in relation to Andrew Tulloch in 17th, I think, because if he comes out about 10 seconds behind, he's still got a real chance of podiums. If not, as the drivers start to cycle through the pit lane, I still think it might be a difficult race to get into the top six. But we've got Keller now defending from Aruda, whose tyres have started to come alive a little bit, because Fars and Getman have dropped back a little bit, whilst Aruda's tyres eventually wake themselves up. I do wonder if he might have been on slicks, in which case now the Aston Martin might start to come into play. There's a couple of drivers going offline. That's Barnett in the McLaren for New Zealand, going offline just a little bit there. It's been an impressive debut. I know he's gone backwards a fair bit, but it's been an impressive debut in terms of his cleanliness, in terms of his attitude. That's what we want to see in Formula Racing League. What we also want to see is side-by-side for the lead action, with Clayton now going down the inside, cooling his tyres down just a little bit, and Eresh keeps the racing line and keeps the position just for the moment, but the Mustang looks a little bit unsteady coming out of turn number one, and he goes over to the left-hand side again. More tyre cooling going on as Eresh to the extreme left with Clayton to the far right. Clayton pulls himself back in, and that remains anyway second place for Mozambique at the moment, but we're getting closer and closer and closer, and I don't think it's going to be long before he mounts an attack. Luke Prentice and Sarah are the top drivers who have pitted this time around, with Trevor Mendes now up into fourth position for Team Mozambique, with Sarah there having been held up or balked just a little bit. I think that is an entirely sensible move to make for the man representing the Principality of Monaco. So we said, where was Adam Sharp going to come out in relation to Andrew Tulloch? And it's a little bit further back, about 20 seconds back, behind the yet to stop officially Barkley and Brush-Tully up into 16th, having not pitted, as Clayton looks to the right hand side. I wonder if he might be coming into the pits. No, he thinks better off it, pulls over to the racing line for the rink curve, and stays in and tucks in for another lap as we go over the start finish line now. The Aston Martin gets a better exit, I think, coming out of the final corner, but again moves over to the right hand side to cool his tyres down. I don't think he's going to have a look. With that dry line appearing, I think the Aston Martin is going to stay in behind just for the moment. The Mustang, again, a little bit snaky over the curves coming out of turn one, and this time Clayton stays in the slipstream. I wonder if he might just launch a move there. Clayton getting closer, pulls out to the right hand side. Is he going to make the move down the inside? He's having a little look, and Eresh there is wise to it, breaks late. You're not going to fluster him, are you? It's Eresh, you're never going to fluster him. So on they go again. It's again more side-by-side shadow boxing, I think it's fair to say, with Clayton there going down the inside, but tucking in just a little bit as they cool the tyres as much as anything. Clayton there in the downhill braking zone, inches from the back of Eresh, but they both survive as Clayton there has another little look there. They're both taking very, very different lines through certain corners, but they're separated by only a tenth of a second. Serafino Gabino, meanwhile, is battling with Team Italy teammate Gordon Brown. I think Brown has gone off the track. He has. And that is 2 positions dropped, I think, because Christian Keller and Gabino are both 7th, 8th, with Gordon Brown back into 9th place ahead of Chris Gebman for Team Uganda in 10th position. We're going to go back to, what are we going to go next? What's the battle? I think Fars and Barnett isn't going to be the one, because I think Clayton again right on the back of Airesh, and Airesh there keeps guard to the left hand side. Clayton moves over to the right to call his tyres once again. Clayton's going to pull in, I think, behind, and then try and set it up again a little bit later from the brakes. The Aston Martin, certainly the more aggressive looking of the 2 cars, you'd have to say. Certainly he looks more in the track and Airesh on the track, if you know what I mean, with Airesh there just about battling away. Better exit there this time, because the Aston Martin did lose a little bit of rear grip on exit, and that is another corner negotiated, another sector negotiated, another potential danger zone negotiated for Airesh there. Airesh there moves to the left hand side. Clayton has a slightly better exit this time out of turn 3, moves in behind, has to chink back out because he was going to hit him. Down the inside we go, and that is the closest we're going to get, and still no move as of yet. I think Clayton is nearly there. He's nearly there. If he can just make that move maybe slightly later, I think we might get some side-by-side action, so it's certainly worth pursuing. So what's also worth pursuing is Darren Townsend, who I think might have been relieved of 5th place by the resurgent Rafael Arruda. Arruda 20 odd seconds off the pace, but coming back through the field with Townsend going backwards at a rate of knots there. Prentice, meanwhile, is just behind. Is he Andrew Tulloch? It's been a really good start for Andrew Tulloch there. I wonder if he took tyres, but he wasn't 15 seconds ahead of Luke Prentice before. Prentice might have had issues in the pit stops, but 14th, but only 15 seconds behind, and only 4 seconds, crucially, ahead of Adam Sharp. So it's a really good recovery drive. Now, roles reverse, because it's Airesh on the inside of the wet part and Clayton on the outside. They both move over. They're side by side briefly at the start of the straight before tucking in once again. Clayton looks to have the better exit coming out of turn 1. That was the second straight through the Kings non-event turn 2 that's coming up now, as you can see, that leads into the braking zone uphill. They both go completely the opposite sides, but Airesh there taking the line of least resistance and gets himself valuable metres onto the braking zone into turn 3. And again, the Aston Martin goes tobogganing a little bit over the sausage cut, but I think it's going to be another safe straight there for Airesh, with Gareth Harvey into the pits as well from 3rd position. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out relative to Tulloch, and if Tulloch might pull a bit of a masterstroke in getting to the lead. It's going to rain heavier and heavier in the ensuing couple of 15 minutes time, so I think we might be finishing under wet again. So if you fueled your car heavy, you might be in luck. If you're one of those that's pitted for dry tyres, then you might be in a bit of problem or in a few issues, because Harvey there has just come out in 11th, has he? No, he's coming out. He might even be jumped by Luke Prentice. I think he will be, because he's just left the pits now. Prentice now going around the first corner, and I suspect that will be actually still safe for Harvey there. As we go back to the leadership battle, Airesh there 3/10 ahead of Clayton. We've heard that before, haven't we, as we go into halfway through the race, as I think Witasera has disconnected and had to come back. It's a disaster for the Monaco representative in 19th place. He's having such a good run as well. I think he was a good bet for the top 8. Meanwhile, the top 2 battling away, and that is Josh Clayton, still 3/10 of a second behind, would you believe, Airesh, who was repelled the efforts of the Midlands man Clayton, representing Team Mozambique, with the flamboyant colour scheme that brings ahead of the typical white national Mannschaft sort of colours that you get with Germany often. And there we go with Airesh just about holding on again. He's looking a little bit twitchy though, that Mustang. It's a lot of steering input, you can see there, really hacksawing at the wheel. But how much can Clayton see? He can't see what we can see, but you can certainly have an idea that Airesh not at one with this car in the way that he has been previously. That's Bruce Tully, I think, up ahead, or is that the Porsche? No, it's not Bruce Tully. It might well be Gabino, I think. No, not Gabino. We'll find out who that is exactly, but so spare Porsche up in front. No, it is Bruce Tully, car number 2, who has had an off because he's still not pitted. So Yeah, it's goes from bad to worse for Team Canada. As I think Clayton is in, he is. As the track starts to get wetter. Here comes Clayton into the pits. Now this is going to be where it's won lost, I think. Erich normally so good in the pit stops. He's going to have to be at his very best because Clayton, who can see traffic coming up, is in the pits now. So we'll have a look at this and see exactly the type of outlap that Erich gets. Whether it's the one he needs or not is another matter. But he's coming up to the back of Brush-Tully, who is under an obligation to get out of the way once he gets to a longer straight. If it's within half a second, doesn't look quite like that, but it'd be sensible for the Canadian to be getting out of the way. A little bit of a tow at the moment, but what is Brush-Tully going to do? Because he does pull out of the way. That's excellent driving from Brush-Tully. There's a few more drivers come into the pits. Mendez into the pits, Townsend into the pits, Keller into the pits. We're going to see how this is going to shake out. The Luke Prentice a second clear of Gareth Harvey. So Harvey either on different tyres and different strategy, or has hit problems there, because that was very much the other way around. Prentice, who's been on a bit of a run. I wonder if that might be sponsored a little bit by his tyre choice, and whether that might come back to bite him, because it's going to rain heavy and then it's going to get lighter once again. So Erich, we can't really see an awful lot in terms of lap time data. I wish we could tell you exactly the tale of the tape here. But Erich, is he going to pit now? No. Floats a little bit into the inside. Oh, he does pit. It was a bit of a late call there, but Erich, now we're going to see exactly how this is going to shake out. Looks like a really good entrance so far for Erich. Into the pits we go. And let's see now with Clayton into 6th place. Clayton's actually come out behind Andrew Tulloch. We've forgotten about him a little bit. His pace has been excellent since he stopped, and I suspect there's also a little bit of tyre choice in there, but the Scotsman, might he have stolen a march on tip drivers like Clayton and Erich? We'll have a look actually at Tulloch now as he goes through the horseshoe, the left-hander turn number 6, where Valtteri Bottas famously went off all those years ago. As he's the leader of the pack at this moment in time. He's got about 5 seconds on Josh Clayton. Yeah, 5.9, 6 seconds on Josh Clayton. Erich still remaining stationary in the pits. We'll cut back to that as and when that becomes relevant. As we can see, he starts moving. Car number 19 is in as well. That's Serafino Gabino, who is ahead of Erich only by virtue of the fact that Erich has a pit stop a little bit further ahead. Erich now leaves the pits. So let's see how this goes, because he's leaving the pits now. I think he's certainly been passed by Tulloch. Tulloch's going around the outside now, and he's going to take the lead. So Team Scotland might just be having a say in this leadership battle, and we didn't see that. Clayton now spins his way nearly around turn number 1, but Erich wins out at the moment. Erich a second or so ahead, but that will get quickly whittled down as he gets his tyres up in temperature. But they're both chasing Andrew Tulloch of Scotland. So excellent strategy so far from Team Scotland to get themselves back into the race. 4.8 seconds. He was actually getting away from Clayton there, so it might well be that Tulloch has pace in hand on those wet tyres. Luke Prentice is up into a net 4th, I think. He is 6th on the road at the moment, with only Aruda and Brown left to pit of the front runners. Brush-Tully finally into the pits for an intended stop as opposed to a stop-go from earlier on. Now we can see car 202, that is still Aruda going round, with dry weather to come a little bit later on. I wonder if he's going to try and hang these to the end. He's going to be struggling for the moment. I don't think he'll be a candidate for the win, but I wonder if he might just try and hang it out to the end. Aston Martin not looking at its happiest in what is, damp conditions at the moment, and it's getting wetter. Erich 4.1 seconds behind Tulloch. He was holding off the attentions of an Aston Martin, but he might soon be chasing an Aston Martin. With Tulloch now a little bit more ginger through the final corner, I think it's fair to say. So I wonder if those tyres might be slightly less suitable as of now, as the weather comes in. Yeah, 3.5 seconds for Erich. So I suspect that he's going to be waiting for the sunshine to come back out sooner rather than later, Tulloch, because Erich is coming. And Erich 3.5 seconds behind at this moment in time. Let's see exactly how that goes as we get to the first sector beam now, I think it is. And Erich still 3 seconds behind. Yeah, 3.5 seconds behind. So a good first sector there for the Aston Martin, with Clayton 1.3 seconds behind in the Team Mozambique Aston Martin. We of course cannot discount him, man. He was so quick at the start of the race. I think there's a battle as well for 6th place at the moment between Two who've had a little bit of a rivalry in the past, haven't they? Luke Prentice and Gareth Harvey usually or often coming to blows in the more competitive ways that FRL can lead to, with Adam Sharp just behind, 4 seconds back in the Honda, and motoring his way up to a respectful finish after a difficult start. But this is for a net fourth, with Aruda now into the pits, having given up on his dry tyres for Team Portugal with 18 minutes to go. Prentice goes slightly wide there. I don't know whether there was any assistance. Don't think there was. Harvey now going to have a look down the inside, going into turn number 7. Prentice gives him space. He's going to try and be squeezed. Is he going to get squeezed? No. Harvey again gives him space. They're going to go side by side going into the downhill ring curve. One of you is going to have to give up on this one, because side by side into the penultimate corner, it's Prentice that blinks first, and Harvey pulls off an excellent move around the outside going into the penultimate corner, and away we go for Team Wales. Team Wales passes New Zealand, and Prentice there drops to 7th place. Harvey up into 6th place, and a net 5th once Brown and Aruda sort their pit stops out. I think it will shake out as 4th and 5th for those two, but yeah, excellent racing from those two. Once again, we've so often seen them come to blows, but not on this occasion, thank heavens, because two drivers there who deserve a good finish are going to get a good finish. It would appear with just over 16 minutes to go. Now, Tulloch, 1 second clear of Eresh. Good luck to you, Andrew Tulloch, because you've got the FRL behemoth that is Eresh behind, and you've got Clayton catching him, so you're going to get 2 for the price of 1. It's the worst buy one get one free offer you can get in Formula Racing League late on, and it's Eresh and Clayton. Tulloch there just about getting his Aston Martin through turn number 5, and I think Eresh is going to have their first place. He does pass us for the lead, as I think Tulloch's tyres begin to cry enough. Now he's going to have to hope that the rain he's going to have a dry track at the end, but how quickly is he going to get that, with Clayton now going down the inside, and it's relieves Tulloch of the second place, and that's 2 positions dropped for the Scotsman for the moment, but he might come back into it a little bit later on. Eresh and Clayton now separated by less than a second once again, as Eresh moves himself over to the right hand side. I wonder if he's still trying to cool those tyres down even in the rain as is, because as he does run slightly wide, doesn't he? Yeah, he does run slightly wide. So 7/10 of a second is going to be a bit less there for Josh Clayton, with watching brief there for Andrew Tulloch, who's got 12 seconds to Gareth Harvey. I think he'll be rather relieved to have that time back to Gareth Harvey with Team Wales a little bit further back, as Clayton again settles into the routine of trying to probe and push Eresh, who's usually the one doing the metronomic chasing, but he's doing the defending so far, and he's doing it rather well, the German, who's had a lot of unbridled success in Formula Racing League, but he's going to have to work for this if he wants to keep up that winning run stretching back to last season. We've got now Aruda on the back of Trevor Mendes. Mendes dropped 8. It's not been an ideal race for the driver representing Mozambique, but still a strong finish at this moment in time with Aruda in the Aston Martin. I remind you, the champion of Taco Tuesdays last season, and well deserved it was too. A model of consistency, the Aston Martin, but he's going to need a little bit more, and you can see Mendes and Gabino just ahead. So 7th place looks on the cards for Aruda after a difficult start to the race, as we've got Clayton now still half a second back from Eresh. Eresh there doing just enough in the Ford Mustang, 2 seconds clear of Tulloch, and I think that's going to keep growing as Harvey on his wets at the moment looks to be the man on the move, gaining a second on Tulloch and getting 3.5 on Luke Prentice, and that doesn't happen very often, because Harvey, whilst he's a quick driver, he isn't a second and a half quicker than Prentice per lap, not usually anyway. Adam Sharp, meanwhile, catching the back of Prentice, who goes on an adventure. He's on the grass there, isn't he, coming out of the final corner. That won't do his tyres any good, so Prentice there looking a little bit ragged for Team New Zealand. He's got the fastest lap, but for how much longer? Because, well, I suspect actually for quite a while, because it's wet. But the rain starting to ease off in the next 5 minutes or so. 2 seconds separating these two Englishmen, although Prentice is representing New Zealand for the purposes of this series. Eresh now going into, leading the race once again, 0.8 of a second. Never been more than a second as he clear of Clayton, apart from in the pit stops. So, be interested to see exactly how this pans out, with 8 tenths separating them and a quarter of an hour to go. It's been this, well, for 2/3 of the race already. It's been this story, and I suspect we're going to get this all the way to the end. So let's see if there's any further battles. I think Keller and Brown going at it, and 6 tenths of a second there, but Chris Gebman is coming up onto the back of Jack Barnett. Jack Barnett, who's was 17th earlier on, has recovered to 14th and now has the most experienced man in Formula Racing League on his tail. Gebman now lining him up for 14th, going up into turn 3, up into the braking zone. Is he going to be able to do it? The Porsche looking a little bit dog-eared from earlier collisions. Down the inside we go, no contact, but he forces Barnett wide, and the curb's not where you want to be in a traction zone. Coming out of turn 3, the Porsche goes down the inside. Isn't the Porsche going to have the legs? Is the McLaren going to be able to steal ahead? I think the McLaren is coming back at him, but Gebman has the high ground going into turn number 4. Does the Ugandan driver make it? No, he doesn't, because Barnett shuts the door on him. Excellent drive, 14th and 15th, so you're never far away from a battle in FRL, but you're not far away from a lead battle here, because Clayton is 2 tenths of a second behind Arish, and once again Arish just about has enough going down the straight, with Clayton forced to settle in behind once again for the tight technical bit. The 6 seconds clear of Tulloch, who's got 9 seconds to Harvey, and that's coming down quite a bit, so I suspect that he'll be doing a bit of a sun dance as opposed to a rain dance, because 5 minutes the rain is going to lighten up, but he needs it to lighten up really quickly indeed, whereas Harvey might just have pulled off a strategic masterclass in order to get himself into 3rd position. He's got 9 seconds to make up, but he's making them up pretty quickly with 11 minutes to go. I suspect that he'll be pretty soon on the back of Andrew Tulloch, who's got Mark Limbrush-Tully ahead at the moment, who won't provide much in the way of competition with his earlier travails from lap number 1, but I think at the moment it could be Harvey who's the favourite for the 3rd spot on the podium. Now, Clayton lining up Arish. We've heard this before, haven't we? The Aston Martin again looking a little bit more comfortable on the curbs. Now, following the Ford Mustang. Is he going to be able to get the slipstream? That might just be helped by Chris Gebman. Chris Gebman just ahead in the Porsche, but Clayton goes down the inside. Is he going to have a look? Not quite. Not quite feeling brave enough. We're not quite at the stage where you can make that move as a do-or-die move, so Clayton sensibly staying out of trouble there, but I suspect that this isn't finished. Once again, with Gebman just ahead now, we will get out of the way. The respectable Scotsman who's been around the block a few times in Formula Racing League but knows what he's doing in these situations now, as Arish and Clayton now go into Valtteri Bottas corner, and Gebman there just off the racing line eventually. It was a little bit early or late into the corner entry, but they're through. No harm done there. So Clayton 4 tenths of a second behind Arish now, which has been roughly where he's been the whole race, to be honest with you. You don't need me to tell you the gaps. You can see just how close the Aston Martin is. And again, the Aston Martin looking a little bit more aggressive, isn't he, as the rain comes. And we're going to be drying up again in less than 5 minutes' time. So might be a time to make the move. Maybe the Ford Mustang might just be at optimum temperature now, or you might be waiting for it to dry up just a little bit. Clayton 4 tenths of a second behind again going into turn number 1. On the brakes, looks like he's going to miss the apex, goes slightly wide, won't get any traction out of there, so I suspect that Arish is going to hold on for another second, although it's actually a bit closer than I thought he would be. I thought he'd spin up there. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move just yet, but is he going to be lining one up maybe out of here? He's certainly very late on the brakes and looking, as I said, the car body language looks a little bit more aggressive on the Aston Martin than the Ford. The Ford runs slightly wide coming out of turn 3. So the Aston's going to have a bit more of an advantage. Is he going to have a look down the inside? He's pulling out. He's certainly thinking about it. Is this the chance? No. The Mustang has enough grunts to get away at the end of the straight, and we are back to follow the leader through the tight technical second sector before we get to the final corner once again. And Sharp, meanwhile, has caught the back of his long-term ally, Luke Prentice. So half a second separating these two great friends. Normally guaranteed clean action between the two, and Sharp on a recovery drive after earlier issues with the lead driver. I think Ferreira might just have left the race. I can't see. Oh no, he's back down in 14th. So Ferreira there in for Team Portugal there might be a further sort of escalation there, but that is for later. You can see the damage on the back of the Honda. The Honda not doing too well on the damage front. Meanwhile, Clayton, 6 tenths of a second behind. He's dropped a whole 3 tenths, ladies and gentlemen, from the last lap, and he's going to use that to kick the back end out and go slightly wide once again. Car looking a little bit more, I'm not going to say lackadaisical, but I am going to say that it's looking, like I say, a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more on edge. That might be generating the speed, but it's like a difficult car to get a hold of. Now, Clayton, maybe that's the way he likes it, but a better exit again coming out of turn number 3 as Airesh gets a little bit snaky coming out of turn number 3. And there's another car ahead that I think, as Jack Barnett comes into the pits for Team New Zealand, it had been such an impressive run for the debutant in this championship, and you can take a lot of solace from that, but it is a non-finish. The McLaren ahead, I think, is Faas of Belgium. Yeah, David Faas of Belgium, who is going to be getting out of the way, one would suspect, coming out of the next corner with car number 911. That is Ferreira up ahead, who was 4th, now facing being last. Now 7 minutes to go, and the 45 minutes has flown by, as I suspected that there might be some tyre difference, because Clayton already cooling those wet tyres down as the rain starts to ease off. With the track only going to get drier within the next 5 minutes, that might be telling. But Airesh has got a bigger problem, because Fast hasn't exactly got out of the way. He has now, but not as quick as the leaders, but no doubt likes. And then it's on to Ferreira ahead, who's looking a little bit dog-eared, isn't he, having banged into the back of Sharp. I wonder if there's further front-end damage, because there, Clayton now having another run at Airesh, going into turn number 3. Aston Martin closer than he was last lap, but not quite close enough. So it's going to be another setup, hopefully, coming out of turn number 3, with Ferreira not helping. Those two had a little bit of history, didn't they, Ferreira and Airesh last season, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. Ferreira looks like he's pulling out of the way. No, he isn't, is he? Yes, he is. Just about a little bit laboured from the Portuguese driver, but out of the way he gets, and it doesn't matter as Clayton nearly runs into the back of Airesh. Late on the brakes there for the Aston Martin driver, but no harm done, no contact made, and they survive now as the rain has pretty much stopped, as Harvey's gamble hasn't quite got him into 3rd place, as he's 33 seconds back, and I think that it might start to level out as Aston Martin's wet tyres start to disintegrate a little bit more with the pressures that he's on versus the tyres that Tulloch is on from earlier on. He's dropped 13 seconds off the lead. I suspect that he cares not a jot, as Clayton is once again staring at the back of a white Ford Mustang. He'll know a lot about the back of a Ford Mustang, won't he, by the time this is finished, because Clayton has been staring at the back of one for about, 3/4 of an hour, hasn't he? 2 tenths of a second now. Is this going to be the moment? Car looks, again, a little bit more aggressive going into the corner, runs slightly wide. Is he coming out? No back end issues there either. So straight run to the end. Well, Airesh looks like he's got a little bit more of the traction zone coming out of turn number 1, up the non-existent turn number 2, and into turn number 3 we go. And again, Clayton not quite close enough, is he? But more set-up plays. There's 40 minutes of set-up play. At some point, he's going to pull the pin, I suspect. But Clayton now, following in the footsteps of Airesh down the straight, trying to see if he can get a bit of a toe. Goes to the outside. Does he know Airesh has covered that off? And again, I think it's a bit more wait and see as Clayton doesn't quite run into the back of him, although he does take a look down the inside on the midpoint of the corner. But no issues there as Team Germany holds out once again ahead of Team Mozambique, with Tulloch there in 3rd place, yet starting to get that gap on Harvey. Luke Prentice, meanwhile, still holding off Adam Sharp for 5th position. I don't think those two are going to be going any further. Sharp, though, goes to the outside in the Honda. Superior speed with the Aston, great on the brakes. Sharp round the outside, and I think Prentice is going to be a rolling roadblock on the apex. They go side by side. I think he runs him just out of road onto the curb, and Sharp there, living to fight another day. But is he going to make a move going into the Valtteri Bottas corner, as I shall call it? Not quite, because Luke Prentice has that covered off there. The wily British man on loan at New Zealand, not quite there. But Clayton there taking a look and calling his start once again. 3 minutes to go, 3.5 minutes to go, so 3 laps. I make it. We've done 26, we'll do 29 unless something goes quite terribly wrong here. Clayton now on the run up to turn number 3. Again, I think we're not going to get a move into turn number 3, but more set-up play once again. So, the Aston Martin, do you pull the pin now and then give yourself time to catch up, or do you wait for the last lap and bet it all on the move down the inside into turn 4? Well, Clayton's not quite going to make it there. So Ayres there, a good exit from the Mustang is what was required, and that's exactly what he got as he holds on again going into turn number 4. We're going to go back to Adam Sharp and Luke Prentice, and Sharp not quite as close as he was last lap going into turn number 3, but is it again going to be more set-up play? It is, although it's going to be more than that because Luke Prentice outbrakes himself, runs wide, and I think that's going to be 5th place for Adam Sharp. They're going to go side by side. And the New Zealand representative, an uncharacteristic mistake, you have to say, from Luke Prentice, as he runs wide and Adam Sharp recovers up into 5th place. I think that's going to be the recovery drive done. Prentice has a go going into turn number 4, but I think that is done and dusted. Signed, sealed and delivered. Adam Sharp up into 5th place after being last, facing the wrong way at turn 1 from pole position. He could be very pleased with his night's work, as can Luke Prentice, it must be said. Qualifying in 13th, 6th place finish will do very nicely indeed for the New Zealander or New Zealand driver with the fastest lap. Now, here's Clayton, running slightly wider at turn number 1 and trying to get a run on Ayres on the penultimate lap into turn number 3. Now, Aston Martin looking a little bit closer. I fancy he might have a go here. Is he going to have a go? No, he follows in his footsteps again. There's going to be more set-up play. He's got to do it at some point because Ayres started to get comfortable with the idea of the Aston Martin being behind him. Now, Clayton on the run down into turn number 4. The Mustang looks like he's got the legs on the Aston Martin here, so it's going to be a bit of a banzai move if it is. And though, again, we settle in. But the Aston Martin slightly tighter on the turn there, but I think all it's done is give the Ford a little bit of a boost that it has, but that's it, because Clayton's still stuck behind Ayres as we go into the final lap with Luke Prentice there just a couple of tenths behind, isn't he? Adam Sharp, that's going to run. We'll have a look at that going into turn number 4, because I thought, to be honest, that Adam Sharp would disappear. Not so. Prentice is now going to have a run down the outside, as he know, not quite as sharp, puts his car in the right place, and Prentice has no luck there. Meanwhile, going into the final lap, it will be 38 seconds on the clock. This is it now. Clayton has to get the exit of turn number 1 right, otherwise it's game over. Clayton moves over to the right-hand side. He's going to have a look, is he, or is he going to call his tyre? I suspect it's the latter. Pulls back in. Now, you have to get this spot on. If you don't, Ayres is going to win the race. And he does, because he is now right on the back of Ayres. He was almost pushing him out there side by side, the Aston Martin. Going into turn 2, forget about that. We're on the brakes for turn 3. Side by side they go, Clayton. It's going to be a block pass if it is. Can he get it stopped? And on the apex, he can. Ayres tries to turn in, doesn't turn in well enough. He goes off the track, I suspect, with Clayton keeping that track. The main stewards might have a look at that. Ayres there keeps it pinned on the outside. Will that be a controversial end to the race? Here comes Clayton again going into turn number 4. Here's how to put it beyond doubt. Doesn't put it beyond doubt. I suspect the stewards might be called on that one because they're side by side through turn number 4. And Ayres is going to hang on, it would appear, with Clayton there. Having done all the good work and having made the move, I suspect that they'll have a case for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. But Ayres will say, well, no, I was pushed off. Darren Davies gets out of the way. Clayton, meanwhile, still hustling through the final sector to no avail. I suspect it will be as they go down into Rindt curve one more time. Clayton having a look down the inside. I don't think it's going to happen there. So Ayres going into the final corner, looks like he's going to hang on, the German. He just has to make sure that he doesn't hit the curb too hard at the final corner. He does not. And I think Ayres is going to hang on and win on the road. Ayres, for Team Germany, picks up where he left off. But he's got to work for that, and there may be consequences later. Josh Clayton is in second on the road at this moment in time as the lap Darren Davies takes 18th. Andrew Tulloch is going to finish in third position, and a well-deserved third position it will be. Gareth Harvey not quite making it on those wet tyres At the end, he drops back to 8 seconds behind. He's fourth. Adam Sharp is going to hang on to 5th position ahead of the New Zealand representative, that is Luke Prentice. 5th and 6th for the pole man, and the man starting in 13th. Together across the line, 2/10 of a second over, it's going to be Serafino Gabino, who's risen up to 7th under the radar for Team Italy in the Porsche. But number 19 is going to go round and take a very solid 7th position. Doesn't always see it through, Gabino, so he'll be pleased with that. And he pulls over to the right-hand side and could be justly pleased with that. Rafael Aruda recovers to 8th position ahead of Trevor Mendes from Mozambique. That fell away a little bit for the recent AM champion on Sunday night, but it's 9th place for him. Gordon Brown is going to take 10th ahead of Christian Keller in 11th for Team Hungary. Darren Townsend, the second German representative, is ahead of, I think that's Ritu Serra, who's 19th and representing Monaco. And it's Townsend who is the last across the line, I do believe, in terms of the lead lap. So Townsend's going to take 12th ahead of Fast in 13th, with Fernando Ferreira in 14th after strife earlier on. It's Chris Gedman in 15th ahead of Marklin Brustulli, who had problems with the start of the race. Jack Barnett in 17th on debut for New Zealand ahead of Darren Mark Davies, and the unlucky Ritu Serra for Team Monaco finish is in 19th. So that was Formula Racing League's return to form, return to action. I've been Jack Prentice. Do join me again a little bit later on. I just want to make sure that we go through the final reckoning. So Team Germany are going to lead ahead of Mozambique. This is a reminder for the first driver. It only is going to score points to keep it fair as possible. Team Scotland are going to take 3rd ahead of Wales in 4th position, obviously with how this shakes out. It's then going to be Team England in 5th and New Zealand in 6th, ahead of Italy in 7th, Portugal in 8th, and Hungary then are going to take 9th place in the Nations Championship, with Belgium in 10th position, ahead of Uganda in 11th, Canada in 12th position, with Wales in 13th, and Monaco in 14th going through. Do join us again next week. Thank you so much for joining. It's late at night, so I'll let you all get off. Take care. I've been Jack Prentice. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.